guys, welcome back to our I've Decided challenge. It is day 16 now, so we are past that halfway point. And what we're going to do in the comments today for our affirmations is write 15 days ago I decided. For me, my affirmations, 15 days ago I decided I am a healthy person. 15 days ago I decided I am an expert at manifestation. 15 days ago I decided that I am experiencing all of my desires now. And I really hope that everyone is experiencing little shifts here and there. At the very least, some momentum, some change, some either physical changes or spiritual changes, emotional changes. Any type of growth is progress. And I really want you to be able to focus on that. But sometimes what happens is we're unable to focus on all the progress we've made, all the hard work that we've done. We're unable to focus on the positive because we're feeling stuck. And there is an expression, I don't remember where I learned it from, but it randomly popped into my head when I was thinking of what today's video topic would be. So I was like, that's the one, we're gonna do it. So it is the concept of don't sit in the poo. And what this means is if you were to poop your pants, if you were to make a big old mess, don't sit in it. You don't sit in the poo. There's a course of action you take to fix your situation. There's an option for you to clean yourself of that, to refresh yourself, to you don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to stay in that, terrible situation, in that gross situation. You don't have to stink up the place. You don't have to sit in the proverbial poo. And what that really means is when things are getting bad in life and when your circumstances feel like you're sitting in the poo, take some action to change that. And lately I've really been talking about taking action on my channel. And especially with this challenge, I want to make sure I'm integrating taking action outside of just the affirmations that we're doing, because affirmations absolutely have their place. But so does directing ourselves. And that was yesterday's topic, is how do we direct our movie? How do we utilize our power to change our character? How do we re-script and rewrite that script and all of that? And today I really want to talk about actionable steps to do that. So yesterday was like the concept, and I've covered several videos on the conceptualizing of taking action, but today I'm actually going to give you some practical advice on how to take action and stop sitting in the poo, okay? So when you're feeling stuck, when you are feeling that icky feeling of, I don't want to be here anymore, this situation stinks, I feel not satisfied with myself, I feel gross, I feel unattractive, I feel unappealing, my life is not exciting to me, this is not where I want to be. Okay, that's the first step. If you are consciously acknowledging that you're dissatisfied, that's step number one. So you're already able to build this momentum from there. Some people are so unconscious that they feel this sense of misery inside of them. They can acknowledge their dissatisfaction, but they're not even acknowledging the reasoning behind it. They're not acknowledging where this dissatisfaction is coming from. And so just by knowing, like, I'm unsatisfied with my job, I'm unsatisfied with my health, I'm unsatisfied with my relationships, that's the first step, is having the awareness, having the consciousness to point at something and go, we don't like that. So already be glad that you're there. Be appreciative that you are cognizant enough of the problem to identify it as a problem. That's a really good place to be, right? If you're a baby and you're sitting in the poo, maybe you don't realize that you're sitting in the poo until later when it starts to feel uncomfortable, right? But as an adult, if you were to poop yourself, you would realize immediately. You would realize right away, uh-oh, I'm sitting in poo, let me fix this, okay? And I know it's kind of a funny analogy. That's the point, is to make this lighthearted, give you something to laugh about, and help you to move that stuck feeling energy. So from that state of awareness, from finally identifying the problem, I want you to just be an observer of your life for a little bit and look around and go, okay, why do I think this is a problem? Why do I feel this is a problem? If you are single or you're unsatisfied in a relationship, why is that a problem for you? And with no judgment and with no criticism towards yourself or towards other people, just observe, be neutral. You are neutral in this answering of this question is what's going on here? Why do I feel this way? If you're working a job, is it the hours that are bothering you? Is it the pay? Is it because you feel like your work is not being recognized? Do you have coworkers that are making it hard for you to feel joyful at work? Is it your long commute? Do you just not like your office? Like, what is it? Ask yourself, like, why am I feeling this dissatisfaction? Where is this feeling coming from of I'm not able to feel happy? I feel like I'm sitting in the poo. You have to identify the problem first and then get to the reason you feel it's a problem. Because once you feel confident in knowing, oh, I'm upset because of XYZ, it gives you a better position to take action from. So oftentimes when we take these actions, we are told, oh, do this and you'll get this, and do this and you'll get that. Think this way, feel this way. And even as a coach, like, I am only able to give you answers from my awareness of you. So what you've shared with me allows me to serve you, but what you haven't shared with me, I cannot address. And the same goes with your relationship with yourself. So you can only address the problems and the root of the problems that you are aware of. So, awareness of the problem is one, and acknowledging the problem. Awareness and acknowledging the problem is one. And step 2 is observe so that you can find the root of the problem. So in your observation, you're just looking around and you're just asking yourself questions. How am I feeling in this present moment? Do I feel good when I talk to this person? Do I feel good when I show up for work? Am I excited to leave the house? When I interact with this person, am I noticing I start off with a lot of energy and then by the end of the interaction, my energy's drained? And this can go for your physical health as well. Like, if you eat a certain food, are you noticing some adverse symptoms after you eat it? And is this happening every time that you eat that food? I notice I have kind of a sensitivity to pasta. I can still eat it pretty regularly, but I have to have some time in between. I couldn't eat it every day or it would really upset my stomach. And this is just an assumption based on an observation that I made. So I started to notice my body's cues. My body was communicating to me, oh, when we eat too much pasta, we get a tummy ache. And in order for me to avoid that tummy ache, I have 2 options. I can either stop eating the pasta or I can change my relationship with the pasta. And I can use affirmations to go, oh, pasta totally agrees with my digestive system. I never get a stomach ache after eating pasta. I can do all of that self-concept work to change my relationship with the pasta. Or sometimes it's just easier to cut it out of your diet. And that's really where we're getting to step 3 is taking the action. You have to take that action from an informed place. And as I mentioned in the pasta example, you have 2 choices. Either remove it from your experience, if that's an option for you. I know sometimes we have to take space from certain people in our experience because it's too difficult in that moment for us to change how we see them. What this looked like for me in my relationship with my parents is like, if my parents and I were having friction, I would take a lot more time and space away from them. I would focus on myself, focus on taking care of myself, and then I would think of them highly. I would think of them in a compassionate way. I would humanize them and realize, oh, they're not trying to cause me harm. They're not trying to fight me. They're coming from this hurt place, or they're coming from a lack of knowledge about something, and maybe they don't even know that they're hurting me. And I would forgive them, and then I would allow myself to come back to that space. I would bring them closer to me in my life. I would take actions towards them once I took that space, right? So removing the trigger is one of the quickest and easiest ways for you to re-regulate yourself, for you to get out of the poo. If you cannot, for whatever reason, like if you really love your job but you can't stand your boss, and your boss you have to work with every day, if you can't just walk away from your boss or create distance from them, the only other option is to go inside of you and change how you're seeing them while you're interacting with them. And I will say this is not more difficult, but it requires more discipline. And a lot of times we equate discipline and self-control with difficulty, but it's just a skill. And if you find self-discipline to be difficult for you, it's just a skill gap. It's just like when I'm speaking another language for the first time, it's really hard, it's difficult, because I'm building that skill. And then the more I practice at it, and the more I affirm, oh, I'm good at this skill, I'm getting better every day that I practice, I'm getting better at this skill. Just like when I started manifestation, I, like a lot of you, had that narrative of, I suck at this, why is it not working? Everybody else is good at manifestation except for me. Why am I not getting it? What am I doing wrong? That was my narrative. And eventually I was like, you know what? That narrative is not serving me. So let me take a step back and let me really assess the situation. Let me ask myself, why do I feel like I'm bad at manifestation? Why do I feel like it's hard? Why do I feel like I'm not getting those results? And based on those answers that I give to myself, I will take an action. Sometimes that looks like taking a break from manifestation. It looks like putting down the affirmations. It looks like, not consuming that manifestation content, or not trying to script, or not trying to visualize, not trying to integrate these techniques, and instead just being as present with myself as I possibly could. And then when I'm ready, I go back to it. And that's a very real option for you. But again, if it's something that you can't walk away from, and you're feeling that challenge of how can I build this self-discipline? Well, you build it by doing it. There's no better answer than that. If you're struggling to control your inner world, to control your thoughts, to regulate your emotions, to calm your nervous system, if that's a struggle for you, the only way is through. The only way to getting better at self-regulating is to practice self-regulation. The only way to build your emotional intelligence is to practice navigating difficult emotional situations. The only way to get better at manifesting is to continue consciously manifesting. And while it can be its own narrative that self-discipline is hard, that's a narrative you can manifest away. You can manifest it away by saying, I am a disciplined person. I am in full control over myself. It's easy for me to exercise self-discipline and self-control. I love how disciplined I am. I'm admired for how disciplined I am. So changing that narrative for yourself is one way to make it easier for you. It will lighten the load, because little by little your brain will search for that evidence. Your brain is wired to prove you right, which is why a lot of times people will watch videos on manifestation and completely reject it, because it's so detached from their current reality, they can't handle it. Their subconscious is kicking in as a defense mechanism and saying, nope, this isn't real, we can't believe this, we're not allowed to believe this. This is either because you are afraid to take accountability, you're afraid that you really are creating your reality, and really you're not creating it, you're selecting it. So you're either afraid of your own power, or you're afraid of the accountability that comes with that power, because again, if you have had a really crappy existence, if you've been sitting in the poo for a long time, there comes a day where you realize, oh, I could have gotten out of this situation a long time ago. I could have got myself out of the poo a long time ago. And that accountability can be really hard. It can be so hard, in fact, that people will reject manifestation entirely because they're not ready to face themselves. And I see this a lot as a spiritual entrepreneur. I see this a lot as a coach. I see this a lot as someone who lives and breathes this stuff. Some people aren't ready to hear the truth, and that's okay. That's where they are. And the other thing that can happen is you will make excuses for yourself as to why you're not self-disciplined enough, as to why you can't believe in manifestation, as to why it's hard for you. And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because again, this is the law of assumption. What we assume to be true about ourselves is true. If I assume that I am a generous person, my brain is wired to prove that to me. It's going to look for ways that I can be generous. It's going to generate these ideas out of nowhere sometimes on how I can be generous. It's going to weigh every opportunity and factor that into my decision making. If I do this, will that prove to me, not even to anybody else, but will that prove to myself that I'm a generous person? And if I do this, will it go against my identity as a generous person, which is equally as important? If you're believing yourself to be a healthy person and it's time to eat a meal and you have a choice between something homemade that is very fulfilling, that is rich in nutrients, where you control the portion and you control the calories, or going through the McDonald's drive-thru, right? One of those is in alignment with being a healthy person, and one of those is going against that belief. It's the complete opposite of that belief. I'm not saying that drive-thru food can't be integrated into a healthy diet, but ordering straight from the menu often is not the healthiest option because of the sodium and the calories and the processed nature of the foods, and you know what I'm saying? So it's not enough to just take action and affirm and assume towards your desire. You also have to recognize if you take an action that goes against that desire, you're betraying your identity. And little by little, you will deteriorate self-trust. And when you deteriorate self-trust, self-discipline also diminishes alongside it. So if you're ready to take that action, if you are ready to change yourself, if you are ready to get out of the poo, right? Stop sitting in the poo. If you're ready to transform on a deeper level, you have two options. You can either remove yourself from the situation, so change your environment, get away from that person, get away from that trigger, stop watching the TV shows that trigger you, stop listening to those triggering songs, because I know that I used to do that all the time. If I was extremely sad, I would listen to a really sad song on repeat and just sit in the poo. I would just be stuck there, festering in the smelly, gunky, low feelings until I got myself out of it. And so don't encourage those feelings. Let yourself feel them and let them move through you, and it should be quicker and quicker every time. And when you give yourself that space to feel those feelings, you don't have to sit in the poo anymore. And so if you cannot create a physical distance, if you cannot physically remove something from your environment, if you don't have the self-discipline yet to remove certain foods from your diet because you recognize that they are triggering your body in a negative way, then at the very least change your relationship with them and alter your assumption and belief about those foods, about those triggers. Alter your identity, and the more you focus on identity, you are going to prove yourself right. If you are focused on being an expert at manifestation, I have been focused on that for the last 16 days now. Today's day 16 of the challenge. And I've been looking for evidence, not consciously, not looking around like, oh my gosh, where's the evidence? Where is it? Like, you shouldn't be obsessively looking for it. But what happens is your brain will subconsciously look for you. So when I watched these two videos and they were talking about like what's your next direction in career, what's your next direction financially. In both of these videos that I felt called to, that my subconscious brought into my experience based on my identity as someone who's an expert at manifestation, both of these YouTubers, both of these women told me in this video, of all the millions of videos I could have watched, they said, you are an expert in your field. You are good at what you do. You know what you're talking about. You know the stuff that you're teaching. Whether you are on YouTube yourself, whether this is your career, your business, whether you are a spiritual entrepreneur or a coach, both of them mentioned all of those things that I am an expert in my field. That was 3D confirmation of what I already identified as true for myself. And it's because I took the action of removing triggers and leaning into my assumptions, leaning into my identity as this person who I've done a lot of work on this. I'm not new at this by any means. Even though this channel is only a year old, I have done YouTube for almost 4 years now. I have been a business owner since 2020. And even before that, I ran several little businesses. I tried and tried. Like, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and here I am. I get to be an entrepreneur now because I shifted my identity. And it was just this solid confirmation of this stuff works. This really works. When you say you are who you are, your reality must reflect that. So if you're sitting in the poo, your reality is going to reflect more poo. And if you get yourself unstuck from there, either, like I said, by taking some space away from your triggers so that you can identify them better, you can heal them, you can move through those emotions, you can move through those challenges internally, or as those circumstances are in your face, and I have had this multiple times where there is a circumstance in my face that is not what I want to experience, I will mentally tune it out. I will mentally change that story. I will revise on the spot so that that experience doesn't mean what I think it means. That experience means what I tell it to mean. And this is all within your power to do so. So I know this has been kind of a funny video, kind of a serious video. I know that this lesson is very valuable and important to hear if you're feeling really low, if you're feeling really stuck and bogged down. It's something that when you're feeling that discouragement, you feel helpless. And so the actions are become aware of the problem, figure out what the root of the problem is, and handle the problem. Know that you can handle the problem. Know that whatever it is you're facing, you've got this. But don't stay in that low energy. Don't stay in that stuckness. Don't stay in that feeling of pity and powerlessness, because you are not powerless. You were created strong. You were created resilient. You were created to overcome, to be bigger than the challenges you face. So you just have to have faith in yourself. Thank you to everyone who's been participating in this challenge. I've really enjoyed it. If you want to stay tuned for more, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon. Although this month I'm really kicking it up with the videos, next month I'm going to be much more slow because we're not going to do this every single day challenge, but I'm going to be really intentional with the video lessons that I share. Not that I'm not intentional already, but next month the lessons are going to get more intense. They're going to get deeper. They're going to get more raw and more real. So I want everybody, I would really love for you to show up for yourself. I would really love for you to experience this information I'm sharing and apply it, because this is real. This stuff really works. The person I was a year ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago is vastly different from who I am today because of this methodology, because this stuff works. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.